Welcome to After Hours for Music Educators, presented by Amro Music. This is where we share ideas and work towards solutions to better serve your students. This week, Nick Averwater is joined by a panel of 10 educators who will be talking about recruiting ideas for growing their music programs. They'll identify themselves as the show goes along, but in the order in which we'll hear them, they include Lisa Alford from West Junior High School in West Memphis, Arkansas, Alex White from Siegel High School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Emily Brown from South Gibson Middle School in Medina, Tennessee, Wendy Higdon from Creekside Middle School in Carmel, Indiana, Brittany Gerald from Stewart's Creek Middle School in Smyrna, Tennessee, Grant Harbison from Jonesboro High School in Jonesboro, Arkansas, Matt Pickering from Lewisburg Middle School in Olive Branch, Mississippi, Douglas Schaefer from Mark Twain High School in Center, Missouri, David Stevens from Adamsville High School in Adamsville, Tennessee, and Michael Sanchez from Sky Ridge Middle School in Camas, Washington. This conversation was recorded March 9th, 2021.
And welcome to After Hours, Conversations for Music Educators. I could not be more excited that you're joining us tonight. We have an incredible group of people that we're going to sit down and have great conversations with, and tonight is all about recruiting. Now, if you've joined us for After Hours before, usually what we do is we'll have one or two, maybe three guests, and we'll go deep on just a couple of ideas. Today, the goal is to go wide on as many recruiting ideas as we possibly can so that you can take these ideas back and implement them in your band or orchestra program. So I'm really excited to sit down with these music educators and hear what's exciting them when it comes to recruiting for this upcoming year. Now, before we do that, I've got just a couple of housekeeping items that I want to walk through with everybody. First off, if you have any questions or if you want to interact today with our panelists, you can use the question and answer box to do that down at the bottom of your screen. Now, our next After Hours conversation is going to be March 23rd. We're going to host Marcia Neal, Dave Gerhardt, and Heather Mansell from Yamaha to discuss accessing funding for your music program. Now, Yamaha, I give them credit. They've been really cutting edge throughout the entire stimulus process and organizing resources and guidance for directors to help us navigate this process. And I really look forward to spending some time with those three individuals to talk about what federal funds are available, how you can access them, and then how you can utilize them within your program. So that'll be March 23rd at 5 p.m. Central. Now, if you're looking for this conversation or any of our previous conversations, they can be found online at amromusic.com/after hours or wherever you get your podcast. Hey, and speaking of podcast, our most recent Director Spotlight episode dropped last week featuring Richie Williams. It was a two-part episode from Paragould High School. It was an awesome interview where we sit down with music educators to share their experiences and lessons from the classroom. And as a reminder, these episodes are released directly to the podcast. So if you're not a subscriber, I'd encourage you to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on some of these incredible conversations that are taking place. So that's enough from me. Let's dive into our topic tonight and meet some of our outstanding panelists for this evening. Now, as a reminder, I'm going to sit down and spend a few minutes tonight with 10 different music educators to talk about what excites them about recruiting for the upcoming spring or fall. Now, this could be an idea that they used last fall that worked really, really well. It could be a new idea that they're thinking about doing. But the most important thing is we're going to try to get as many recruiting ideas out as possible during tonight's conversation. So, Miss Lisa, if you don't mind, we're going to start with you tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great.
It is so good to see you. So if you don't mind, just a quick introduction of yourself and we'll dive into your recruiting idea.
So my name's Lisa Alford. I teach in West Junior High in West Memphis, Arkansas. I've been teaching for 18 years now. And most of those have been here in West Memphis, about 15 years of those. So my idea was stolen off of the band director group on Facebook, but it's the one I've been most excited about because I feel like it's going to really speak to our kids. And I feel like moving forward, this is probably something we're going to keep. So it's the Cameo app, which I have up here on the screen. I'm not the only person that's going to be talking about this. I haven't used it yet. We're in the planning stages, but so another person later will be talking about actually using it. But our plan for this Cameo app, I've got it on my phone, but there's also a website. My plan is to pull our money together. We have 3 junior highs here in West Memphis. So we're going to pull our money together and split the cost of maybe somebody really big. A lot of these are pretty cheap. They're within $200, but some of the bigger stars are more expensive. It can range up to $700 or $800. So splitting it 3 ways is going to help us. And we'll just have a generic message as far as hello, all West Memphis 6th graders. So I figure even if you don't teach in the same district, as long as what you're asking that star to, how you're asking them to introduce the idea of joining band, as long as it's generic enough, you can pull your money with other directors. And hopefully our goal is to find an actor that's going to stand the test of time. We don't want to spend our money on a one and done. If we can use this video for several years, that would be awesome. And then my plan also is to maybe spend a little less money, maybe around $100, and find somebody too that I feel like would appeal to the schools that I recruit from specifically, and kind of tailor it a little bit to my specific 6th graders. So we're in the planning stages for that, and hopefully we'll have our video here right after spring break so we can get it out to our kids.
I absolutely love that idea. So there's a couple of elements that I'm picking up. So the first thing, you want something that's a little evergreen. So you're not going to talk about dates or years or join the band in 2021. I mean, you're talking about something that you can reuse and recycle for the upcoming year, and finding something that's relatable to the kids.
Yeah, exactly. I figured that will be the most use, like the best use of the funds that we have.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Now, Alex, if you don't mind, if it's okay with you, we might restructure the order, because you actually I think you might have been one of the originators of, at least one of the first people I saw that did this. So this is perfect. This is an example where you inspired a lot of educators and it made its way around. So here Lisa is talking about exciting in your program, and you've actually hired somebody to come in and do this via Cameo. Do you mind just giving us a little, we'll go ahead and let's bring you into this conversation.
Sure. I feel like everyone else here has some really great ideas, and I feel like all I did was spend too much time on Facebook and get caught by a Facebook ad and think to myself, that could be cool for band. So I don't know if this is how original this is, but we definitely thought it was kind of an interesting idea. I pitched this to my booster board to pay for a Cameo, and they actually shot it down originally. They didn't think it would work. And I just kept telling them, guys, this is going to go viral. I don't think anyone's done this before. So it's up to 19,000 views. We got Rick Harrison to do it from Pawn Stars. I've got a little clip if we want to see it.
Yeah. Is that okay with you, Alex? Do you mind sharing? Because I love Lisa's talking about planning for it, and you've already had yours recorded. So let's check it out.
Hey, everybody. Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars. And this goes out to Siegel Middle School. Okay, so all you 8th graders out there, I'm just saying, you know what? I got some good friends, Mr. White and Mr. Ward at Siegel High School, and they're in the band. And I think you guys should sign up, okay? No experience required. You can enjoy performing, everything like that. You can make friends, you can travel, there's lots of food. It just seems like the thing to do, guys. Definitely a plan. You know, because if I was at Siegel Middle School in the 8th grade, I would definitely be signing up for band the next year. Just, you know what? It's just a lot of fun stuff to do. You know what? The traveling, the food, friends, you know, never know. Turn into a rock star. Anyway, thanks for watching Pawn Stars, and thanks for joining the band.
Love that, Alex. That's great. Now, if you don't mind, are you comfortable sharing with what the total bill for something like that was, if somebody else is thinking about building it in their budget?
Absolutely. So I spent countless hours going through the celebrities trying to find somebody that we could all agree upon, and we eventually realized we're never going to agree upon the celebrity. But I watch Pawn Stars. I enjoy it. Rick Harrison was $100, and that was all I was willing to spend, was $100. I can tell you that I've been contacted by several band directors who have found YouTube stars and people I don't know, but that middle schoolers do, for as cheap as $5 to $10. And they've actually gotten multiple ones, and they've spliced them together. So their video has 3, 4, 5 of these YouTube celebrities or child celebrities that I wouldn't know, but the kids do. The last point I want to make is that Rick Harrison has been really neat, because while the kids sort of know him from like I guess, a meme. It's important to remember that you're also recruiting parents, and a lot of them do know Rick Harrison, and that seemed to resonate a lot as well.
That's great. Now, have you started using this already in your recruiting materials or just posted it in Facebook band
No, we
groups?
definitely have. We actually have him introducing our recruitment video. So it kind of looks like he's introducing it. We thought it was important for him to use our names and our middle school's name so that the kids know this isn't just something ripped off of YouTube really quickly, that it was really personalized for them. And we thought that was special. We were careful not to use any dates so that we could use it again later if we wanted to.
Perfect. And what's been the response from the rising beginner class? Have you seen any response or comments from them?
It definitely got their attention. They thought it was really neat. They asked me how I know Rick Harrison, and I made up a story about how we met in Vegas, and it was great. But it seemed to go really well so far.
That's awesome. Well, Lisa, Alex, thank you both. What a wonderful idea. And I have to admit, I didn't know that it was so affordable. I knew about Cameo because at the Amro Christmas party, we did it on Zoom this year. And we had Kevin from The Office come on and wish our company president happy birthday or Merry Christmas. And I thought this was the coolest thing ever. And the thought never even crossed my mind for recruiting video. So Alex, wonderful idea. Lisa, I cannot wait to see what you all come up with in West Memphis and how you implement this great recruiting idea in your particular program. So bravo to you both. Thanks for sharing on After Hours. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Miss Emily Brown from South Gibson Middle School. Emily, good to see you tonight. How are you?
Good to see y'all. I'm great.
Welcome back to After Hours. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your idea.
Okay, so I might be in a situation that people could be envious of because I get to teach the fifth graders that I would recruit for sixth grade. Our school is a fifth through eighth grade school. And so it's kind of a really perfect situation to recruit for band because I'll obviously get to train these fifth graders and then get to say, hey, you're really good at this. I think you should join the band. And so in doing that, I'm able to see them and their musical growth. And then, like I said, encourage the ones who seem to really take to music quicker. And then at the end of the fifth grade year, I do a collaborative concert between my fifth grade recorder students and the sixth grade band members. And so at this concert, we have two sets of parents, the fifth grade parents that are there to see their child play recorder. And then we, of course, have the sixth grade band parents. So this is a good time for band parents to say, oh, I've seen you before and your child's in the band and that's cool. And let me also preface that we have been in person this entire year. We obviously are social distanced and wearing masks and such. So we are able to have concerts in person. I don't have to Zoom. And so I know that's a frustration for people, but luckily I'm going to be able to do this. And so the night of that concert, the fifth graders play their songs from this thing called Recorder Karate. I've seen band karate, but we use Recorder Karate. And they progress and then I recognize the kids that make it to their black belt. And then I have the sixth grade band perform for the fifth graders. And so, Nick, I sent you a file of a picture of a song that we play or a piece that we play called Introducing the Band by Andrew Ballant. It has narration, and I do this every year. And so that also I invite the high school band director to come and participate. He's the narrator, so he can, have some positive influence. And
I'm pulling it right up now for you, Miss Emily.
Thank you. And this is a great piece where each section is featured. It's definitely a beginner piece. Oh, that's another one I'm going to talk about. I sent you two different emails.
Okay, I'll jump over to the other one.
Sorry. But while that one's up, let me talk about that one. So one year I played this piece with my eighth grade band for the fifth grade. Again, we're all in the same building, so I can plan all this. And I don't know if anybody's done this piece, My Shot from the musical Hamilton, but it obviously has a rapper. And just so happens that my principal is an accomplished singer and performer. And so he came and played the part of Hamilton in this piece, and he rapped along with us while the 8th grade band played. And that was my biggest recruiting year in probably 10 years. So it kind of piggybacks this Cameo app. I mean, obviously your principal coming and, talking to the 5th grade and rapping was a big turn on, or, to get the kids to want to think about joining the band. So that was
so many
one thing.
good ideas. Yeah.
I'm sorry that I'm not so tech savvy to
Let me
share
jump
them.
over, and I think I have this other one. So this is the recorder piece.
Yeah,
Am I still doing my shot?
yeah.
Okay, let me try this one more time. I promise that I think I know what I'm doing too here.
It's called Introducing the Band by Andrew Ballant. There it
Yeah.
is.
There you go. So for anybody
So-
that's interested, there's the piece.
Yes, and it's a beginning band piece, very doable. And like we do it in May, right before school is let out. And then, it gives the 6th graders some pride to play for the 5th grade. And then I can also say to the 5th graders, these kids were sitting right where you were last year. And, and now you could have the opportunity to learn to play a musical instrument next year in 6th grade. Again, I realize that not everybody has their 5th graders in their building with them. And so these ideas might not be feasible for lots of band directors.
Well, I know the play along concert from the 8th grade to the 9th grade, the high school, we hear about 8th grade nights at football games and things like that, where they incorporate. I think this is very similar, where you have this very clear transition step between 5th grade, you're enjoying recorder, and now we go into band, and you make that a very clear, even with the parents' involvement. And so, even a side-by-side concert, I think there's a lot of ways to incorporate the concepts that you're pitching, even if maybe you're not at a 5 through 8 school or something like that, where you can incorporate the benefits of what you're doing. So love that. And then, can't understate, using a local celebrity like your principal, getting them involved in the concert. What a great idea. And you pointed out that was one of
Yes.
your best recruiting classes, was when your principal rapped My Shot from Hamilton with your 8th grade band.
It was a really cool moment. He did it on our spring concert. And then I said, hey, would you mind if we play this for the 5th grade? Because maybe some more kids, of course, Hamilton is such a fabulous musical and kids identify with it and love it. And they were loving it. And he was really good. He bought a Hamilton costume and everything. Again, you have to have the right kind of person that would fit that mold. But there might be a teacher, there might be other people in your community that would love to collaborate with you and to, make that music become more engaging, I think, and bringing people to your program.
Absolutely. Well, great ideas, Emily. Thank you so much. So good to see you as always. And I love those recruiting ideas. A lot of things there that I think people can apply. So thank you, Emily. Next up, I'm excited to welcome for the very first time on After Hours, Miss Wendy Higdon. Wendy, how are you today?
I am great. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I know you're busy doing Conselmer Institutes, and you're a busy person when it comes to recruiting. So I appreciate just a few moments of your time coming on and talking about something I know you're passionate about. So what's an idea that you're fired up about right now?
Well, I tell you, there's so much happening right now. And especially over the last year, there have been so many conversations about recruitment and the challenges that COVID has placed on our recruitment efforts. And I just have to tell you that, music teachers are some of the most innovative, creative, and resilient people out there. And regardless of the obstacles, whether you're virtual, in person, what have you, we are so good at finding ways over those obstacles. And there's so many great ideas out there. So I'll share some of mine, and I'm anxious to hear everyone else's tonight too. One of the things that we adopted last spring with our recruitment after the world kind of shut down is we adopted a virtual parent meeting. And that's something that I plan to retain, going forward with our recruitment process. We've been about 75% virtual in our recruitment efforts for about the last decade because of some situations in our own district and some constraints that we have. But I had not moved to a parent meeting being virtual, and while I'm sure we will return to an in-person meeting at some point in the future, having that virtual option where parents who can't attend, who have a conflict, or whatever reason, can go back and view the important points that you're making in that presentation. You can provide links for handouts, forms, links to the music store for rental arrangements, those kinds of things. Just the amount of time that it's going to save me personally on the back end following up with people is completely worth the time that I'll spend putting together that virtual presentation for parents.
Yeah, absolutely love that idea. So you've all been recruiting virtually in some component prior to COVID shutdown. And so I think that that was a little unique. What do you think are just some of the successful elements of virtual recruiting for those people who might be doing it for the first time right now this spring?
Communication is the absolute secret to your success. We really try to follow the basic marketing principle of the rule of 7 touches, meaning that, you know, in order for the average person to respond to your call to action, in this case, joining the band, they need to have that message in front of them on average 7 times. So whether that's an email, whether that's something that they see on social media, whether it's an event that you do with the kids at school, you want to get that message out there in multiple formats, multiple times, in impactful ways, so that you're not missing a group of people.
Yeah. And the key word that you said twice there that stood out to me was average, which means some students it's more, some students it's less. So some students it could require 8, 9, 10 different points of contact in order to get them enrolled in the band program. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And you know, some experts in marketing say that with the way we are bombarded with messages and media, advertisements, all of those things, in today's social media world, that it could be closer to 14, 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's certainly a quantity and a quality element that comes into play when you're digital recruiting versus maybe having, you know, the undivided attention of a room full, or we like to think undivided attention of prospective students that were pitching joining the band. You're saying, hey, when you're digital, it's got to be a much higher quantity than that.
It does. And I think even, you know, when we moved from a fully in-person, face-to-face, we're out in the elementary schools, we're doing events that are in person with the kids. And then the next year we had to move most of those events to a more of a virtual format. You know, I was concerned, like I'm sure anyone else would be, that my numbers were going to drop. But we found that when we upped that communication piece, our numbers actually grew.
Wow, that's a really interesting point. So I think some of us fear over communicating these messages and exhausting people, but you're saying, hey, that's really not the case in these instances.
I mean, you don't want to send 10 emails, but if somebody gets an email and somebody gets a social media message that they see, or a post on social media, and you know, maybe there's a flyer, or there's a brochure, or there's a postcard that's mailed to the house, you know, you're not going to bore people because the message is a little bit different. And it looks a little different each time.
Yeah, such great insights. And I love the way that you're bringing really the fundamentals of marketing into your band recruitment. So Wendy, thanks so much. I appreciate you sharing some of that. And that's some really, really great insights that kind of paint a broader picture as we get into these specific ideas. So thank you. All right, Miss Brittany Gerald from Stewart's Creek Middle School. Brittany, it is so good to see you back on After Hours. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having us back. And I'm excited to talk about recruiting and band and all the things.
Well, I know you and Mr. Lynn always have some really spectacular things. We saw a really great video that you all created last year as it relates to onboarding your students. But tell me about what's exciting you for recruiting right now in the spring.
So what's exciting me, and it kind of piggybacks off of what Wendy said, it's actually a perfect segue, which is really exciting, is our summer mail out. So traditionally we get to do like the 5th grade concerts and all of that. And then to reinforce the experience that the kids have had and to also reach the parents, we send every incoming 6th grade kid something in the mail. in the past, it's been like a whole packet of information. And we started adding this insert that took information from surveying our band families, and it addressed like all those big questions that you always hear at the parent meeting, or all the concerns kids give you when they ask, can I do band in this? Can I do this? How many of you guys, do I have to have prior musical, all the stuff that people always ask.
Right.
So we surveyed the families and we took all of the information and made it into a little insert. And this year, instead of doing the entire packet, we're going to take our insert, and I'll get it pulled up in a second. We're going to take our insert and turn it into like one flyer that gets sent to all the kids. That's kind of a combination of all the packet information. So it'll look pretty and flashy and honestly be cheaper because it's one thing instead of a whole packet of things. And sorry, I'm trying to get this pulled up and talk at the same time.
Yeah, that would be great. I remember last spring, for anybody that's interested in seeing what they did last year, I remember Andrew came on, and I think it was episode 3, Recruiting Without a Classroom, where we took a look, and I remember it being really beautifully designed. So let's see what y'all are working on this year.
So I don't have the one done yet for this year, but this is what I think he did the previous, like a year behind.
Yeah.
This is what we sent this last time. So it includes, I'll go back a page. It includes, like I said, all the things that we found were kind of our struggles to hit on, all the questions that we get asked, the information that parents want, but their kids didn't ask at a 5th grade concert. And then we also take this information and share it on social media, and can do it in little blips, so maybe just this graphic or just talking about the skills. And then my favorite part is that on the back, we give all of our current parents and students a chance to give us a quote about band, and we just totally leave it up to them. And we pick the best ones we can, and we do this each year. So you can see the quotes from the students and then the quotes from the parents as well. And so this year we're going to make it, this is normally like postcard size. This upcoming year, it's going to be full size. It's going to have all of the quotes, some of the other like pictures and general information about the band. And then we also have it's like a band trailer type of like a little iMovie trailer about joining the band. And so we're going to add a QR code to where you can scan the flyer and then open up and see the trailer, and then see a little bit of Andrew and I talk and introduce ourselves to. It can also go on social media. So it's basically trying to take all the information we want them to have and give it to them in every way possible. So talk to them, put it on a pretty flyer, put it on social media, put it on a video. And then we also have this physical thing that we can hand out whenever people are interested, or if we're not there and someone wants to talk about it, they can give them information about the band and how to contact us too.
Love this idea. And exactly what Wendy was saying is, from this one piece of information, you've got 5 or 6 different marketing touches that you can implement through these various sources. And the other thing I noticed here is that, these statistics, and particularly this top one, 89% of band members participate in other club sports or activities. I mean, that is probably one of the most frequently asked questions that I hear directors be asked about. Well, can I do band and this? And I love that y'all address that head on from the very beginning, that yes, you can do band and be a part of other activities here at Stewart's Creek Middle School. Yeah, this is beautiful. And it looks like you designed it in Canva. Is that correct?
I did. I use Canva for everything. It's awesome. You can use it for free and create. They have pre-made templates for anything on social media, anything to print. We actually used Canva to print these, and they're really nice on cardstock, and they were pretty cheap. And it's a totally free program, so I highly recommend it for anything you want to do. I mean, we use it for like simple posters in class and stuff too.
That's great. We use it here at Amro as well, and I am not skilled with design whatsoever, but even I can drag and drop some of the templates in there. So really great ideas, Brittany. Thanks so much. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of that stuff with us. Okay, up next, we've got Mr. Grant Harbison from Jonesboro High School. Welcome back, Grant. Good to see you.
Hey, Nick, thank you so much for having me.
Well, tell me about what idea y'all are excited about there with your team at Jonesboro.
So, and I'm kind of also piggyback off of what Miss Higdon and Brittany said. So, our main thing right now is this pandemic is scaring us all when it comes to recruitment and retention. I mean, we're terrified about the future of our band programs, but we're all in the same boat. And the thing that we're trying to do is just mitigate the lasting impact that it has on us. And by getting those numbers up and by getting those virtual kids back in our band, that is how we are going to on with the future. So Brittany was talking about making a band trailer. I've already made one for my junior highs or my elementary schools. We have 2 junior highs that have 5 elementary feeders. So we have to email everything out. Normally I get to go in person, but since it's a pandemic, it has to be done virtually. But first, in my trailer, I introduce myself and I talk about joining band, that you can do band in sports. I'm like, do band, but do football, do basketball, but do band too. Because most kids, like, be honest, how many 7th graders like, I want to play band? They all want to play football, and we have to talk them into doing our awesome job of being in band because it's incredible. So I have a little 4-minute video that I've made. I've got the instruments and I just talk and I just try to be Mr. Happy, so that way they want to come and join band. And then also, I'm going to give our band listening aptitude test that Amro has given us as part of our director packet years ago. I don't even know if they still have it, but this morning I've been emailing principals, setting up Zoom meetings with their 6th graders. So I'm going to Zoom into each 6th grade class, and then they're going to have a Google form that they're going to do their responses for their listening test. And so I'm just going to talk to the 6th graders over Zoom while they're completing their Google form for the listening test. And that's how we can compile all that information. And instead of having to physically type in all the names and addresses like we've always done, assuming they know their addresses, it's going to go right into that Google form. So it's just one of the things that we're trying to reach out to kids for for Valentine's Day, before Snowmageddon hit us. We had suckers with like little Bitmojis of me printed out that says, "We love band and you will too," and just like little fun things that we just sent to the 6th graders and said, hey, have some suckers, and just do anything to kind of grease the wheel to make them want to be part of what we do. Because if they don't get in 7th grade, they generally can't get in. So we got to get our claws in them now.
Yeah. So there's, again, just one of those 7 average touch points right there, just the suckers, the videos, anything. And so if anybody is interested in using the aptitude test, we released another one. Grant, I'll mention, just to be sure you're using our updated one. We released a new one a couple of years ago, and it's got live audio samples from real musicians and everything like that. So it's all available on our website. So if anybody's looking to implement that, you're more than welcome to do that. And I think, in fact, Hunter, also referencing to a previous podcast, Hunter Durham at Rivercrest did a great job diving into that on that same episode we were talking about with Andrew, recruiting without a classroom. So if anybody wants to do a deep dive on that particular test, you can see how Hunter's using that in his classroom. So Grant, I love that. So you guys are pulling in some digital elements, hey, even though we can't go in person. And I love that. I mean, obviously you're a very positive guy, but I love that you are letting that positivity shine through, because ultimately at the end of the day, you attract bees with honey, and your job is to talk them into being in band, and people join because of the leaders, of the people, and they want to be a part of that.
Yeah, thanks. I always call doing the dog and pony show. Just, I mean, in little 6th grader and 7th graders, you say the craziest things and they just giggle. I guess no teachers normally talk about poop or something weird like that. But anything to keep them interested and engaged, to make them want to join what we do so they can laugh and learn to play clarinet too.
Yeah, absolutely love that. So Grant, thanks so much, man, and can't wait to see the recruiting successes you guys have this year at the Jonesboro School District.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, up next, joining us from Lewisburg Middle School, excited to welcome Mr. Matt Pickering. Matt, good evening. How are you today, man?
I'm good. How are y'all?
It's good to see you today, and welcome to After Hours. So what idea are you guys excited about at Lewisburg right now?
Well, we were excited about creating some custom posters. Join the band, be like Bill, with celebrities, be like Samuel Jackson, play the French horn. And that idea actually got changed last night about 6:00 p.m. from the principal at our school, who is very hip and very in touch with cultural things with kids her age. And she said, no, you need to do a video, and I will play it during our activity period each day for the next month. And then you can come over May 10th to the 14th, and you can do all of your facial analysis testing. during their music classes. So I'm fortunate where I am that I have a great relationship with that principal. She and I are on a praise team together, and she knows how important it is at Lewisburg. You know, people from this area know the Lewisburg program, and it has a wonderful tradition of excellence. And she is excited about helping us continue that trend, and I was super excited to get her feedback, even though it meant I scrapped everything that I had worked on, even for this presentation. So I'm literally going back to the drawing board, but it's going to be a video in combination with the Be Part of the Music website from Scott Lang. I think he is a just hero for all of music educators across the country for putting all those resources together. And the Amro test is part of that website as well, I believe. I don't know if it's the most recent one, but it's certainly on there. So that's what I'm excited about at the moment until the principal tells me otherwise.
I love it. And Matt, you know, we were talking before this, and I actually asked you to share that story because I think it's a great example of just how flexible we have to be going into this, at the best laid plans. Yes. And as after hearing Wendy share with us that number, that 7 number, I'm almost wondering if it's a see all of the above approach. Hey, I'm going to do the videos, we're going to do the test, and then I'm going to hang some posters up around the school too, because we're just trying to create as many of those touch points to get us to that 7, 8, 9, 10, however many we need to get the kids signed up for band. And a couple of weeks ago, for anybody that is interested, you know, we had Yamaha design some beautiful posters featuring the characters from Soul, and we still have some of those here at Amro Music. So if you're in our area and you're looking for some recruiting posters, Grant got his hand up. Matt, if you're looking for some recruiting posters, we do have some, thanks to our friends at Yamaha, and appreciate what they did there and putting all of those together. So, well, Matt, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm excited to welcome now a new friend, an individual that I have not met prior to tonight, and that is Mr. Douglas Schaefer. Doug, how are you, man? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I'm glad to be here. I am the band director at Mark Twain High School, junior high and high school, which is out near Hannibal in Missouri. And so my recruiting thing, I use a lot of what's already been talked about as far as handouts, you know, having the high school go and perform for the elementary. But we do something in addition to that, and it spawned from a random theory I had. And the theory is, you know, art in elementary is art in middle school. Math in elementary is math in middle school. Music in elementary is not band in any way, shape, or form. The closest they come is the recorders and maybe, if you're lucky, some Orff instruments, which is not a thing here. So I started asking some kids who weren't choosing band, simple question, why? And they're like, I don't know how to play an instrument. I know you don't know how to play an instrument. That's my job. You've never played it before. So I started chatting with my admin on this, and we came up with this idea of teach them how to play an instrument. And so what we actually implemented, and we do it for the first 3 weeks of the school year, every school year, every 6th grader takes band. And it's just a 3-week cycle. The room's not big enough for me to have all of them, so we'll block the schedule off. Some days they'll go to art, some days they'll go to PE, but I get all the kids for a certain period of time. And in that time, we do little mini lessons, do a lot with the mouthpieces, and just teach them how to actually make sound on the instruments. And they get a little bit of a crash course in what band is, and they learn that it's not so scary. That's the big thing. They learn, oh, I can actually do that. And I think that that's the number one big thing. I mean, even when it comes to retention, there have been dozens of studies that have said most of the times when a kid wants to quit, it's because they feel like they're behind. Well, that was kind of the mindset where, well, most of the time when a kid doesn't want to join, it's because they feel like they're not going to be any good. We've been doing this for 2 years now, and at this school, I've actually done it at 2 different schools. At my first school, we saw enrollment numbers jump from about 5%, band was not the thing to do there, all the way up to 67%. And even here, we saw a jump from 20% up to 65%. So by doing that, and we have sample sizes from 2 schools, this convinces almost 2/3 of the 6th grade class every year to actually try band out.
Oh man, I love that idea. So it's a introduction. I mean, I think back to my time in college and we had like those 1 hour courses where you just kind of get your feet wet a little bit. And you guys
Mhm.
realized one of the biggest hurdles was just a fear of not knowing how to play the instrument. And so you just address that head on and prove everybody can play through this
Yep.
intro to band course.
Yeah, it literally is that intro to band 101, just a nice little 3 week seminar just to convince the kids that, hey, this is possible.
Wow, absolutely love that idea, Douglas. And so that's something that you guys do at the beginning of the fall semester. So you've got very much your counselor and your principal in on helping guide you through that process.
Yep.
Oh man, what a great idea, Doug. Thanks so much, man. Hey, and I believe a congratulations are on order, as I believe you were recently recognized as a Yamaha 40 under 40 educator. Is that correct?
It is correct. I was nominated by actually one of my seventh grade parents who actually thought this recruitment pitch was one of the coolest things ever. She had done band forever in school, and her kid didn't want to do it until he went through this. But I will caution, and I said this to my admin, I said this to a friend. I'm very happy to win the honor, but I want to make sure that the kids get the credit, because I think any band director on this call, any band director worth their salt will say anytime a band director wins an award, it just means that the kids are putting in the work for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth. Any great organization, it's the boots on the ground that are getting it done. So the great idea. Love that you guys addressed one of the most fundamental fears that are keeping people from joining the band. You address it head on, and I think the results speak for themselves with 65, almost 70% enrollment in your band program. So again, congratulations on the well-deserved recognition from Yamaha.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Up next, Mr. David Stevens from Adamsville. David, good to see you. How are you tonight, man?
I'm great, Nick. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm sorry. I feel like a clarinet player with a dry reed. I've been sitting here waiting for my moment and squeaking. So,
Oh, man. Well, we're excited to have you on. So what recruiting ideas got you fired up right now, David?
well, I'm just sitting here listening to all these amazing ideas, and I'm taking copious notes over here for myself. I'm just going to steal pretty much everybody else's idea. My idea is a little different. I didn't get a chance to tell even the panelists beforehand what it was, and I think it's probably the most controversial idea, and some people are adamantly against it. But I'm going to pitch it to everybody tonight, and that is recruiting all the time in all grade levels. I teach 6 through 12 here at Adamsville, pretty much by myself each day. And let me pull up my notes so I can stay on topic. I think even though you may not do it in your program, and it may not be right for your middle school, high school, junior, senior high school, whatever your situation is, even if it may not be right for you in a normal year, I think there's a lot of students that missed out on the opportunity to be able to join up because maybe they were virtual and that scared them starting out, and you still had to teach the students who are in person. And so we've got a lot of, we're music educators. We want to extend that opportunity for students to be musicians, become young musicians, and to be impacted by music. And I think a lot of them missed out. So I think even if you don't normally do it, I would hope that you would be encouraged and think about doing it. The number one question that a lot of people mention is, how do you have a seventh grader, an eighth grader, a ninth grader, or a 10th grader that is just starting out? How do you do that while you're playing things that are higher level? And it's got to be the right student, and it can be difficult. But I think back on my beginning band, and those y'all help me remember those standard of excellence. What do we call it? I don't know, but they were certificates that you would put on the wall, and it was very much self-paced. So, you can look at your curriculum and you could say, how can I make my daily structure? How can I make sure that my warm up every day starts with those basic first fundamentals, so that these students get 5 or 10 minutes that are learning their instrument, that every day they're getting 5 or 10 minutes of that. And then every other day they're getting to pass off something that's self-paced, and they can move at their own pace. And I think there's a lot of students out there in your school that can do it. I think I've found that I've been pleasantly surprised at the number of students that I mean, I don't know. I need students badly enough for a small school, and I need students badly enough where if somebody comes up to me and says, Mr. Stevens, I'd like to play tuba. There is no way that I'm going to tell them no, that they're not going to be able to do that. I don't care what grade they're in, as long as they're not a senior. I also, through that process, I kind of micromanage my recruitment, where I recruit within friend groups. So, you know, I'll walk through the cafeteria, either junior high or senior high, and I'll see 2 or 3 band kids sitting with one non-band kid, and I'll go, hey, what in the world are you doing hanging out with these weirdos? Why don't you just join band? You know, you're already hanging out. And I found that those are super successful at incorporating them. They tend to get into it, and it, I don't know, it's a great opportunity to get students that stick and starting them afterwards. I don't think, for me in my situation, it's not something that's ever taken away from my 6th grade numbers. The process of starting late is hard enough that's enough of a discouragement, you know, if people see people do that and talk with them. I don't think it takes away from the students that I have signed up. You know, we had more this year than we have in years past with a COVID year. So I haven't seen any evidence of that. I know that'd be a concern. And I was just finish up with a story about a student that joined us. He was a freshman, and I know that a lot of this is geared with 6th grade, and I'm, like I said, I'm writing notes and everything, but he was a freshman. He came up to me and said, Mr. Stevens, I'd really like to play saxophone. And I said, sure, why not? And so we put him on the field, gave him a spot, and he held a saxophone. He learned how to play like 3 or 4 notes. And you know, so he'd play like the first note of the show and the last note of the show. And I'd go to critique, and a field judge would say, you know, you still got a kid out there that's not playing any music. I said, I know, he picked up the saxophone for the first time a month ago, you know, and they just look at me like I'm crazy. And he ended up graduating as one of our best saxophone players that I've ever had in 11 years. And he was valedictorian. And so, you know, I think there's a valedictorian out there that would love to be in your program. And there's a lot of students that can handle it. It's a great way to supplement your numbers. And I would encourage everybody, if you've got especially if you've got a school-owned instrument laying around, if you've got a trombone, if you've got a baritone, if you've got a trumpet or a clarinet or whatever you've got. And I would encourage you to try to find a home for it with a person, even if they didn't start with you.
Yeah, David, I mean, such a great reminder that recruiting is a year-round activity. But B, I think you're so right. I mean, this year, you know, we typically think of recruiting as this very clean, you know, they graduate or they leave 5th grade and they join my 6th grade band or 7th grade or whenever it is, and they progress in this very linear fashion. But this year, there are a lot of students that either couldn't join band, or they couldn't do activities, or due to restrictions, they couldn't come and do after school activities, or whatever it is. There is a huge group of people right now who never really had the opportunity to join your program. And I love that you're keeping that fresh and reapproaching that in our minds, that, hey, let's not lose sight and let's figure out ways to incorporate them into our program. For you, I mean, it sounds like because you want to put, you know, as many people out there on the field as you can. But I think this year in particular, we just got to remember there's a lot of kids that might not get to encounter music just because of COVID, and we don't want that to be permanent.
Right. And I think it's a great way I think there's lots of important ways to macro manage the recruitment process, but I think, you know, being in a smaller area, smaller town, smaller program, the micromanaging of the recruitment process is important too. And there's like 3 or 4 key students in my 6th grade class when I recruit. If I can get them, then they're going to bring with them, you know, their friend groups or other people. So, you know, I'll actively, it might be later, we might have finished, it might be 7th grade or 8th grade, but if there's a football player, I'll actively go recruit that football player to join band, because I know they're going to bring those students with them. So it's a selfless and a selfish thing to do for me.
I love that idea. And thanks for just bringing and reminding all of us about the importance, particularly this year, of expanding our recruiting horizon that we would typically do under these COVID circumstances. So thanks, David. Always good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we've got Mr. Michael Sanchez joining us all the way from Sky Ridge Middle School in Washington. Michael, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here, Mr. Averwater. How are you?
Man, we're excited to have you on. And I understand you just finished class because it's 3:49 there. Like you just got done with class and then had to hustle and come join us on this webinar.
Yeah, I sure did. So we may have a custodian making a surprise debut or a kid coming to get their instruments. So
That's
I have a sign
perfectly
on the
fine.
door, but we'll see what happens, right?
Perfectly fine, man. So listen, what's going on in your program as it relates to recruiting? What are you excited about right now?
And this is gonna sound like I'm stealing everyone's ideas, and great, because I think the more people that can endorse an idea, the more we can see how it works. I've been recruiting since the start of school, and we in Washington State have been online since March 13th. We just got in the building 2 weeks ago, so we've had to really think differently about how we needed to do this. One of the things that was really important to me is to maintain the sense of community that my seventh and eighth graders already have. We start beginning band in sixth grade. So maintaining that community of the seventh and eighth graders, and then making that community for our sixth graders who don't know each other and who don't know me. One of the great successes has been learning how to play Among Us, which is a popular game that they could play on their phones or on their devices. We've gotten together at lunch times to play it over Zoom. It's a hoot, and you get to you get those little glimpses of the kids being kids and not students, and that's been a wonderful thing for us. Um, some other things that we've been doing are that I found really successful is asking my seventh and eighth graders, what do you want to do during our Zoom meetings? While we were still in remote learning, and you'd get really interesting responses, but by far more of them said, I just like it when you hang out with us and you make fun of us and we joke around and all of that. And that's been, I mean, okay, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. This year is to me has been all they get is dessert. So if they want to play Star Wars or some pop song that I don't know that there's an arrangement of, they get that. If they want to hang out and have me, razz them, great. They get dessert all year because they've been through a lot. And I want my class to be something that they look forward to, and I know everybody listening does too.
Yeah.
Now that we're back in the building, we're pivoting a little bit now. So, certainly we're doing the videos. I learned how to video edit, just like I'm sure a lot of folks here have of teaching online. So, using video as a recruitment tool, certainly. Um, One of the things that I credit to having strong retention, as well as our recruitment didn't go down last year, even though we were right in the middle of all of that. My numbers were actually up a little bit. One of the things that I think really helps is getting with your administrator and saying, I just had this conversation about a week and a half ago with my administrator. Said, okay, we have forecasting coming up. What can we do, right? Since we're still sort of in a new world, we have limited class capacity right now. We're running about half capacity. So I'm in the talks with my administrator. We're going to be heavily figured in as to how they run recruitment this year, since we can't go to all the elementary schools and have an assembly. That's what we're going to be doing. So it's nice to come with some really concrete things like, this is what I want to do. Can you have the choir teacher and I come talk about music? Because ultimately, it's important that they join a music class, right? Not necessarily band. There are band kids and there are choir kids, but music's for everybody. So whatever speaks to that kid's heart, that's what we want them. And so the choir director and I have always been really, really a cohesive unit when it comes to that. Hey, band's not working out for this kid. They want to join choir, or vice versa. Great, let them do that. So we're continuing that good work as well. So, the biggest thing that I can say is don't be afraid to ask your administrator how you can start to be a part of that process. I know a lot of schools, you might be sort of in the, it's business as usual at that point, depending on where your state is. But I know for us, it's not. So certainly more interactive things like, Zoom webinars, parent informational night that we never had to do. Because we always sold the kids on band, but now you do have to sell the parents on band too. So those are just a couple of things that we're working on as a music department here at my school, and we're really excited about what's coming up and how it's all going to shake out.
Michael, that's awesome. And we went this whole conversation without touching on the conversation, the importance of aligning our efforts with our administration. And so I'm so glad that you brought that in, because as Matt was talking about, hey, we can have the best laid plans, and the administrator could come in and say, I think we need to do something else. And then all of a sudden we're pivoting at the last minute, trying to figure out how to work iMovie. So I love that you brought that into perspective for us, because it's such an important part. And listen, I just got to tell you, Michael, I have so much appreciation for music educators, but for those of you on the West Coast that have been completely digital, I just applaud everything that you guys have done to ensure that music is a part of your kids' lives. So thank you to everyone, but Michael, thank you for what you've done for your students, because I know it's been exceptional. So really appreciate all of your efforts.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, listen, wow. I mean, what incredible conversations. I mean, I'm just fired up about recruiting tonight. So many great ideas that we've just touched on here, big picture marketing stuff, all the way down to very specific ideas, the posters that we can use and the videos that we can use and how we can incorporate our administrators. So to all of our music educators, to our panelists, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being a part of tonight's conversation. And I would encourage you, please share this with anybody in your area. The podcast is going to, drop this Friday. So please encourage them to come and listen to some of these recruiting ideas that we discussed, so that they can be a part of their program as well. So to all of our panelists, thank you. To all of our guests tonight, thank you so much. It's so good to see all of you. And again, our next conversation is going to be March 23rd. We're going to have our friends from Yamaha come on and talk about ways that you can access some of this federal funding. So much money right now is being passed down through these stimulus bills for schools, and we want to ensure that music gets the piece that it deserves, so that schools are prepared for this fall. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, and we appreciate you being a part of After Hours Conversations for Music Educators. Good night, everyone.
You've been listening to After Hours Conversations for Music Educators, presented by Amro Music. This podcast features conversations with music educators who are finding innovative ways to teach their students. You can hear and see more conversations at amromusic.com/afterhours.